Oh, I'm freaking tired.
And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man.
That's right.
Of the seed of man.
The word seed is sperm, and sperm comes through having sex.
It's shut out of your father's rod.
Right.
Put it in layman terms, in his penis.
That's right.
That means a man put his penis in a woman and bust off in it.
Then the angel said to him, "Take out the entrails of this fish, and lay up his heart and his gall and his liver for thee. For these are necessary for useful medicines."
The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther,
Go ahead.
which are found neither in the Hebrew nor in the Chaldee.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is in my lap, being contentedly quiet for a change. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cat. Get over it. This is an Ethiopian Apocrypha episode, unfortunately without Skullbeard. Skullbeard and I can only record on days when I have a day off. Guess who hasn't had a day off in a while? Me. Guess who's not going to have a day off for a while? Me. And I have been putting in so much time at work, that I haven't had a time to prepare anything as far as an episode goes. And so that leaves me with the only choice of doing a section of the Ethiopian Apocrypha solo, which is not the best way to do it, but unfortunately it's what I have to do. Now, before we get to that, I do have an update about, if you recall, on the last episode I talked about that Mueller indictment of 12 Russian spies and how I thought, well, gosh, there just doesn't seem to be something quite right about this. How he got the information is damned peculiar, if it's as good as he got it. As luck would have it, the most recent episode of the Security Now podcast, and I'll have a link to it in the show notes, the last 40 minutes of the podcast or so, they talked about what Mueller revealed in that indictment. And the one co-host of the show is a guy by the name of Steve Gibson. If you've used SpinRite software, you have used something he's worked on. He's also in the past worked for the government on classified projects. He gave that up because the paperwork was just too much of a hassle for him to deal with. So he went through the indictment and he knows all kinds of shit about computer technology, security, things like that. I've been listening to the podcast for about 10 years now, certainly from the beginning. And I don't remember how long it has been running now, but it's been close to 10 years, if not over 10 years. And on episodes, they have literally gone over and broken down in ear-bleeding detail very basic elements of some aspect of computer technology just to explain how it works so that they can build on it for future episodes. They constantly get emails from people who say, I passed my computer science, I got my computer science degree thanks in large part to the information put out by this podcast. So it is not for the casual listener. You have to have an interest in this stuff and have to be willing to, put up with episodes that just get into minutia like you would not believe. Anyways, so he went through this, and according to him, he has the same concerns I do, because it appears that the U.S. government got all this stuff after the fact. They were not monitoring the Russians in real time. So that means that it had to be because they sucked up all that information in their various data centers and then were able to crack anything that was encrypted somehow. Or, as a computer expert I know via the web who has a good deal of experience, not as much as Gibson, because he's not as old as Gibson. According to him, he says that the one possibility, and even he is hesitant about that, is that they were able to get, the ISPs to turn, or not the ISPs, but the VPN services to turn over information. Let me read what his response to my comments about it, because I laid out in my comments exactly what I said basically on the last episode, and here was his response. Yeah, I've been wondering the same. On the legit side of the spectrum, most VPN providers aren't nearly so private as most people assume, is part of it. Their logs are only a subpoena away. It's also possible that the FBI can hack into Fancy Bear itself and look at their logs. Another avenue is forensics on the DNC server image. They may not have been as good at wiping their tracks as they thought they were. That would explain some of the information that they got, but not, well, at this point in time, the Russians went to this search engine and searched for these terms before launching a blog. Okay? The only way you know that is if you have their search records, you're monitoring them in real time, or you have somebody on the inside feeding you data. And this guy continues. On the less than legit to illegal side, you have NASA surveillance shenanigans. In other words, hacking or cracking encryption, monitoring the Russians in real time, and worse. I tend to doubt that, but it's possible because Mueller knows the Russians will never end up in a U.S. courtroom, and so the chain of evidence won't ever have to be disclosed. So, yes, it appears my paranoia was justified. And listen to that last episode, the episode of Security Now. I'll link in the show notes, the last 40 minutes of it, because he raises the same questions I do. He goes into good detail about how he thinks it may have happened, and he is somebody who has got decades of experience. I mean, he started playing with computers in school in the 70s. So he's been at this a while, and he knows a few things about the technology. Some of his other stuff is a little crazy, but when it comes to computer technology, I tend to trust what he has to say. So, we still don't have good answers on how the government was able to do this. But it does look like we need to be a bit unsettled. Because, again, with this shit being in the hands of a corrupt president like we have now, bad things could happen. In other news, I have rescued a cat. It was not exactly my intention, but when you hear the details, you'll realize that, yes, I definitely had no choice in the matter. So, yesterday morning, I got home from work, and I've got some food I've got to cook before it goes bad. And I fire up the old grill because, it's better to cook stuff on the grill than in the oven. Plus, I don't have that many clean dishes because I haven't had a chance to do my dishes because I've been working so much. So, I'm out there. And I look over, and at a neighbor's shed, I see this big cat. And it's some kind of, it looks Siamese to a large degree. The actual breed you would call a Siberian tiger Siamese, because while they've got similar coloration, their legs are striped rather than being a solid brown color. And Siamese are usually very thin and delicate cats. This was a big cat. I mean, very, very big. Not fat, but, sitting, it was about it was over a foot tall. And I'm like, that's a pretty kitty. So I go up to see it because Fuzznuts' grandfather, or possibly his great-grandfather, was the largest cat I've ever seen. He was a big Tom, of course. His head was the size of a pomelo. And, he must have weighed close to 30 pounds. I was stupid and didn't try and keep him, and he disappeared one day. And then Fuzznuts' dad showed up at some point, and their size was close, so that's what makes me think that they're, father and son, even if they're not identically colored. And this cat looked to be about the same size, and it's like, man, I would love to be able to just breed some big old kitties. Definite house cats, but all be the size of, bobcats or small mountain lions. So I go over, see the kitty. And the cat ducks underneath the neighbor's shed. And I'm like, well, that's too bad. And then I think, well, let's go in, get a can of wet food, and set it out near the shed and see if we can draw the cat out. So I do that. And immediately the cat pokes its head out and starts chowing down. And I gradually ease the can away, drawing the cat out. And I can tell that the cat is just rail thin and hasn't eaten in a while. And so, I start petting it and talking to it. And it meows at me. And it's meow, meow, like that, literally like that sound. Not a meow, but a meow, meow, very frog-like. And so I'm just like, well, you're a pretty baby. And I grab the cat and the can and I bring it over and set it on the deck. It starts munching away because it is ravished. I mean, I can feel her bones easy when I pick her up. And, while she's moving around on the deck, I'm able to figure out that, yes, indeed, it is a female. And I'm like, well, you're a sweet baby. So, and my plan was it's going to leave her outside, and then in, the morning, if I got off in time from work, I would take her to the vet and see if they could check for a chip, because she used to have a collar, but it's no longer there. I suspect she's a dumpy. And, I got to petting the cat. For some reason, I touched one of her paws, and I discovered she's been declawed. At which point I realized I can't leave her outside. She's pretty defenseless. It's probably why she's so malnourished. She doesn't have any claws to catch anything. Who knows how long she's been away from her owners. So, I got pictures of her. I got some video of her. And I posted that on a local lost and found pets group. And then I brought her inside, put her in my room, locked the door so Fuzznuts can't get at her, because I don't know if she's got anything. I don't know if he might have something to, infect her. So And I put some flea medicine on her, so she's got fleas, that'll hopefully kill them. I couldn't get the good stuff, but I got the mid-range stuff, so yeah, hopefully it'll keep some of them down. And I have not heard anything from anyone who is claiming her. There was somebody who said that looks like my cat, who disappeared. See if she answers to the name Suki, and make sure that it has been declawed, because my cat was not declawed. Well, this cat was definitely declawed and does not answer the name Suki, so I replied and apologized that, sorry, it's not your baby. But she's a big kitty. So she's most likely fixed if she's been declawed. So she's in my room, and I unfortunately do not have time to take her to the vet this morning because I did not get off work on time, and I've got to cut this episode. Plus, I have to go to bed because I'm going to have to probably put in a 12-hour day tomorrow. So, as you can imagine, I am not in the best of moods. That's why I'm having a beer. I'm all out of whiskey, so I can't have any of that. Otherwise, I'd be pounding that shit down. Because it was a frustrating night at work. All right, so for starters, we're not even supposed to be there today, but we had to come in, because we've got this audit coming up. And so we get there, and, we're hoping that we're not going to have to work a full shift. And we've not been told how long we're going to have to work. But, we're all hoping it'll be less than a full shift. So, supervisor tells us what he wants us to do is a full wash down of all the equipment. And what this is we spray basically foaming oven cleaner on everything. We hose it off. And then we spray this stuff, which I forget what it's called by a trade name that wouldn't make any sense to any of you. The actual chemical ingredients, I forget all of them, but it's a mild acid solution that part of what it does is it helps stabilize the metal, so if it's trying to rust, it doesn't rust as much. And it also, helps get rid of some of the residue from the oven cleaner that we spray on it. And then after that's washed off, we spray sanitizer on everything. And then the sanitizer is left on there because it's edible, and all it does is just, it kills bacteria. So we spray the foaming oven cleaner on there. And then we go to wash it off, and we have no water. Well, it turns out somebody did something wrong, and the water, because we use so much water that you can't just have it come in straight off the city mains. It has to have the pressure stepped up. We also have to, it has to go through a flash heater to get it up to about 140 to 150 degrees before we spray it out. Well, if you've got no water, or almost no water, like every other hose in the department had some water pressure to it, but not a lot. It's impossible to wash all that stuff off in a short period of time. I mean, that whole process, the oven cleaner, the acidic solution, and then the sanitizer, maybe an hour for us to do it, because we wouldn't have to do any real detailed cleaning of this stuff, because we'd done that Friday before. So all we're doing is just, getting everything not extra clean and all nice and neat after we've been pattying it, moving it around, and all this other shit. But without the water pressure, it takes forever. So we get it takes us 2 hours. It takes us 2 hours to get all the foaming oven cleaner off the stuff. Only at about that time did we get our hot water at a decent pressure back. So then we could take care of the rest of the stuff. And at that point, we get all that done. And I don't know if our supervisor decided, well, fuck it, we're going to be here all night or not, but we were. And after we did all the cleaning of the equipment, then we had to go and do crazy cleaning, I was going through the warehouse, cutting plastic off pallets that was hanging improperly, is going around, getting rid of cobwebs, stuff like that. And it was just, on and on and on. And that was what I spent the last half of the night doing, basically. And some sweeping. And, everybody else is, I guess our normal quitting time is 6:30 in the morning, and at 6:30, most of the people were let go, but I couldn't find the supervisor to find out if I could go. So I had to spend the last hour at work, basically going and trying to find my supervisor so I could go home. Eventually I found him, and he's like, yeah, get out of here, I'll see you tonight. So yeah, that put me in a kind of sour mood, as you can no doubt tell. Alright, so with all that out of the way, let's get to the Ethiopian Apocrypha. And at that time, Midian persons arose upon them in a enmity, and them aroused them armies upon Israel, that them might fight them. And them king name are Acrandus. Him quickly gathered many armors in Kilikias and Sorora and Damasco. Well, I'm guessing Damasco was Damascus. Sorora, Syria? I have no idea what Kilikas could be. And camping beyond Jordanos, I guess that would be Jordan, him sent messengers saying, and that I might capture your money, pay tax toward Israel for me, he told them. But if Uno don't pay tax, me came that me might punish Uno and might capture your livestock and take your mares and capture your children. Me will capture and take Unu toward the country Unu you don't know. And there me will meek Unu water pourers and wood pickers. Him told them. This is just incomprehensible gibberish. Don't boast while Unu said, Inel are Jah kindreds, and there are nothing able fit any. Aren't Jah who sent me that me might downstroy Unu and plunder your money? And aren't me whom Jah sent that me might gather all your kindreds? Are there really a saving that them different idols save the other kins that me downstroyed? Me captured them mares and them horses, and me killed them and captured them children. And unless Unu introduce the tax that me commanded Unu, me will downstroy Unu like unto them, him said. And him crossed Jordanos, that him might plunder them livestocks and them money and capture them wives. And after this, Israel children wept a firm mourning toward Jah, and them totally cried. However, them lacked one who helped them. And because this saying, Jah gave firmness for the 3 brethren, and them names are like unto this, and them are Yehuda and Mikibikas and Maccabees, whose features were handsome and whom were warriors in them power. Okay, so this is the story of Maccabee, which we've heard before in English. And Israel children totally whipped their pon the time them hood. It saddened them in a them heart arising from all Israel children shout, the child whose mother and father dead pon him, and widows, and them officials, and them priests, all Israel kindred, both daughters and males, and all children would weep, sprinkling ash upon them heads, and them nobles had worn sackcloth. But those brethren, who were attractive and comely, went and agreed that them might save them. Them counseled, saying, make any go and give any bodies for the death, because these persons telling one another, take heart, take heart. Them went girding them swords upon them waists, and seizing them spears into them hands, and them went prepared that them might incriminate the warrior. And them arrived toward them camp. Maccabeus attacked the warrior, the king, when him had sat at a dinner table, and cut him neck in a one blow when food were in a him mouth. And Maccabeus and Yehuda struck him armies pon the king left and right by sword, and killed him. And pon the time them king were defeated, them entered toward them spears in a them companions' hearts. And them all totally fled, on them bows were broken, and them were defeated. But those brethren who are attractive and comely were saved from death. There are no evil thing that found them, but as Jah returned chastisement toward them, them sliced up one another and were depleted. Okay, so I don't know if this means the brothers were, got mad at each other and killed themselves, which would be a departure from the previous version of the story, or if it's just describing what the army did after the brothers killed the king. Them were defeated and dead, and them crossed Jordanos, and up till them crossed them cast away all them money, and all them money remained. And pon the time Israel children sight up that them enemies fled, them went toward the camp and took both what them plundered and them money for themselves, and them money for them ourselves. Jah saved Israel, doing thus by the brethren and Maccabee's hand. Israel sat a few days while them made Jah irie. But after that, them again returned toward them sin. Israel children neglected worshiping Jah by what are due. Okay, so God saves your bacon from certain death, and you forget about him promptly. That doesn't make any sense. And him shall again sadden them by kins who don't know them, and who will gather them field crops, and downstroy them grape places, and plunder them flocks, and slaughter, and feed them livestock before them. And who will capture them wives, and them daughter children, and them male children, because it were them that saddened Jah every time. As the mare kindreds who demolished the law, them will hammer them children before them pon each of them heads. Them won't save them. Wow. I kind of need some help with this. This is, I knew it was going to be hard, but man, got somebody else here that can help you sort this out. All right, let's keep going here. Them who do this are Theros and Sidona, and them who live beyond Jordan's river and pond the sea edge, Karen and Gilead, Ibusiwan and Kinianiwan, Edom and Gaisiwan, and Amalek persons. Your guess is as good as mine. All peoples do thus, who live firmed up in each of them tribes and countries and regions, and in each of them works and country languages. And all live firmed up, like unto Jah work them. And there are persons from them who know Jah, and whose work were beautiful. And there are persons from them whose work were evil, and who don't know Jah, who irated them, and like unto them work sin. Him ruled them in Assyria, King Silmansor hand. I have no idea. As him plunder and take Damascus money, and as him share Samaria loot that are before Gibbs king, him rule them in a Silmansor hand. What the hell? I'm going to search for this. I want to know what a shaman. That doesn't tell me anything. Biblical names in Amharic 11. What the hell? Never heard of Lion of Judah Society. And the document is illegible. Because the hell is this book? The Bible Society of His Imperial Majesty, B.S. Yeah, never mind. Published by H.H. Ras Idonis Tafari and H.H. Woziro Tehetina Germa Aswa of the Lion of Judah Society. Imperial publishes to His Imperial Majesty universities, colleges, and Christian Kawahido churches. Wow. I have no idea. From the Amharic. The hell? So I guess, yeah, this is a rabbit hole I am not going to go down. I am too fucking tired. Back to the text. Gilead region, and also persons in Phaz and Midian, Cappadocia, and Susiga, who live in the West Mountains in a Gilead fortress, and Phastheos that are part of Yehuda land, and these are who live in them region, and them are kindreds who don't know Jah nor keep him command, and whose collar of reasoning were firm. And him shall pay them hardship, like unto them work evil, and them hands work. For Gilead, kindreds, and Caesarea region, and Amalek have become one there, that them might downstroy Jah country that were filled with truth thing, and within which Israel Irator are praised, him who are most glorified and conquering, and whom angels who are many in a cherubial, I guess it's supposed to be cherubic, something dealing with cherubs, okay? I'm tired, I can't pronounce this shit. Them who stand before him serve fearing and trembling, and him shall pay them hardship, like unto them work evil, and them hands work. Amalek and Edomias personas don't worship Jah, by whose authority earth and heaven rulership were seized. As them are criminals who don't live firmed up in a truth work. Them don't fear for demolish him lodge in the temple. And there are no fear in Jah before them, apart from shedding blood and adultery and eating what were beaten and sacrificed for an idol, and all that resemble what lodge dead. And these are scorned sinners. Them have no virtue nor religion, as them are who hated goodly work, and as them don't know Jah, and as them don't know love work, apart from robbing a person money and from sin, and apart from downsturbing a person in all hated work, apart from games and song like unto them Father Diablos taught them. So that would be Satan. Them have no virtue nor religion. That kind of makes some sense, but not really. As him have ruled them with him host, demons, him teach them all evil work that were for each of them's selves, all robbery and sin, theft and falsehood, robbing money and eating what were beaten and what lodged dead, and adultery work. And him teach them all that resemble this, and going toward a human wife, and shedding blood, eating what were sacrificed for idol, and what lodged dead, and killing a person's soul in a violence, and envy, and winking, and green, and evil work that Jah don't love. Diablos, who were them enemy, teach them this teaching that him might distance them from Jah law, who rule all the world. But Jah work are innocence and humility, not annoying the brethren and loving the companion. Oh my God. So this is essentially saying, yeah, God's work does not involve going door to door and saying to people, have you heard about Jesus? We want to talk to you and get you saved. Don't be hypocrites for favor for a person face, and don't be wrongdoers, nor totally robbers, nor persons who go toward a Utman wife, nor persons who work an iniquity and evil work upon them companion, nor who cajole them that might wrong them companion in a violence. Them wink and shake them heads and provoke for evil. Them discourage for mislead them might lower them toward eternity definite judgment. Okay, I'm going to read one last chapter, then I got to pack this in. Sorry, it'll be a short episode. I apologize, but I think y'all can understand. Think that thou wilt go in a death toward Jah, in a whose hand are all. And thou wilt stand before him, that him might convict thee before him upon all the sin thou worked. As them who are arrogant and evil and powerful ones, children who aren't strengthening more than them, were likewise formerly called, them side up, them stature, and them power, and them firm authority. Them didn't make Jah before them, and them didn't know that him were them irate, or who irated them bringing from not living toward living. And when them fighters being like unto angels praised upon Mount Hola with the angels, upon the time them accord misled them, them are lit toward this world where definite judgment shall be done forever. As Jah in the antiquity have irated human flesh for them, that it might mislead them because them reasoning arrogance, and might test them as it were them kept him law and him command, them married wives from quail children, but then didn't keep him law. Him lowered them toward Gehenna fada with them fada Diablos. For Jah have vexed upon the offspring of Seth, who wronged like unto persons, and persons' error diminished because them sin. And them took Adam children toward sin with them. Him lowered them toward Sheol, where them shall receive us a verdict. As persons' error have been divided because Seth children erred by quail children, when a person errors were 900 in the antiquity, them returned toward living 120 eras. And as them are flesh and blood, Jah said, our spirit of support won't live firmed up upon them. Okay. And because this thing were era inner divided, for because inner sin and inner iniquity, inner error have been divided from any fathers who preceded. And when them are inner them infancy again, them are dying. But any father's error had abounded, because them kept him law, and because them didn't sadden Jah. But in our father's era had abounded, because them vexed upon them daughter children, that them might teach them, and because them vexed upon them maid children, lest them demolish Jah law, because them didn't demolish Jah law with them daughter children and them male children, because this thing, them era had abounded for true. No, I can't comprehend this. And it's more being tired than it is the beer. I do want to say, however, that this speaking pattern really reminds me of a guy I used to work with, who he was from Louisiana, I think around New Orleans, but I don't know for certain. And he had this really weird speech pattern that it made it hard for me to understand anything he was saying. And I thought he was an immigrant from somewhere because, you know, of the way he spoke, you know, he had that accent. Because, I mean, I've met people from Louisiana. I've been to New Orleans. I have never met anybody with that kind of accent. I mean, it was almost as bad. I don't know if you've seen that. I don't know. Oh, hang on. Let me look this up. The Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Hard Target. You know, that's the one where he does the splits. He's a Cajun in that movie from New Orleans, and he goes and meets his uncle, who is a really deep Cajun, who is played by Wilford Brimley. And they have this conversation in the movie, which really is probably the best part of the movie, that it just sounds like gibberish, because they're that's the way this guy talked. And I was like, and then, you know, I wasn't about to ask, hey man, where the fuck are you from? And then I found out, and then he said something about being from Louisiana. I was like, oh, okay. And the other thing that I noticed is once I realized where he was from, it was easier for me to tune my ear to be able to understand him. So that was pretty cool. Anyways, I'm tired, as you can probably tell. And I mean, that guy was a bit of an ass. And he got mad and quit one day. It was so funny because he was bitching and complaining to somebody else, and I can only understand part of why he's complaining. He just, I'm a grown-ass man. I got 5 children, 5 adult children, and 2 goddamn grandchildren. I don't need this shit. I'm a grown-ass fucking man. And you're fucking good. I'm just gonna fucking quit out. You're not gonna yell at me, treat me like this shit. I'm fucking out of here. And, you know, he just storms off, and it's like, well, dude, okay, go ahead. I guarantee you're not going to make this kind of money anywhere else. But whatever. All right. I am going to get out of here. I have no idea what the next episode will be. If I am not putting in 12-hour days all this week like I expect, then it may be a news episode. It may be an interview with a scientist, if I can track her down. It may be something else entirely. Again, I just have to see how the week goes and whether or not I have to work, because we get our audit this week, and then we have another audit at the end of August. then another audit at the end of September. And I have a sneaking suspicion that if this audit doesn't go well, we're going to have to bust our asses all the way until that August audit, which means I may be putting in more fucking overtime than I know how to handle. We will just have to see how it goes. I thought that when I switched departments, I would have a more stable work schedule. It turns out this work schedule is just as unstable as the other one, but hey, at least I'm making a little more money. All right. I will talk to you later, and I will do my best so that the next one of these episodes is one with Skullbeard. Because it's a lot easier when you have two of us doing it. But like I said, I didn't have any days off, so I couldn't record with it. The next time we're able to record, though, we're gonna do a bunch, so I don't have to deal with this shit again.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.